Hey guys. So if I'm pronouncing this correctly, the Episcopal or Episcopal Episcopal Church is preventing us from receiving reparations. And it would really be nice if the church will open up their heart um into giving us the reparations, because there are many Americans who have an African descent and very highly in their DNA and in their blood. Yes, there are some in other races too, but mainly we all know that an African American definitely isn't hard to find. And reparations were promised to our ancestors and to us because, I've done some research and it looked as if 85% of whites did not want reparations for us. And I don't think it was something that they should agree on. I didn't think that their vote mattered for something that has to do with African Americans, because this is basically our problem to deal with. It's almost like let's give every white person reparations, and then you ask African Americans or Hispanics, if they should, receive reparations for them, but for why? Why should another race opinion or vote matter to the opposite race? If it's a specific type of problem designed around a specific type of race, it should be that race. That race should have its own opinions and thoughts. Everyone else's opinions and thoughts are very good, but it shouldn't be a vote to see if whites would want reparations for African Americans. That has already been determined, even by whites from the past. It just hasn't been justified. It hasn't been released. It hasn't been given to us like it was promised to be given to us. And we don't really need an explanation why reparations would help, African Americans, because, African Americans get a lot of, we're struggling, or we're poor, or we're needing help, or we're always looking for a handout. Some African Americans are getting that feedback, and some people are generalizing that as a whole. So why not, allow us to have reparations so that you will no longer hear that, because most African Americans just need that one specific jump, that one push, and they have laid the foundation for the rest of their life, just for that one small thing. That one small thing is big to them. And reparations is big for anyone who has been living next to poverty, in poverty, or in middle class, or, coming from a family who, a person who didn't have a family who were very successful. You may get a successful person in the family, but they may not have a successful family when it comes to, becoming successful and, keeping money in the bank, and things like that. So, this would be a time for this person to receive the help of a lifetime that they may not ever see, but this would help them with their business, so they won't have to, depend on the government anymore. This would be a good aid for them, that they can invest some of that money. And with the advertisement going on, and everyone is becoming more aware of how to invest the money that they get, and what to do with it, how to start a business with it, what to put aside, and what to spend, and what to utilize, so that people can have more responsibility taken within the things that they do in their everyday lives, so that they won't be always relying on the government for things. This would be that push. So this is the reason why reparations are really, really important to release for African Americans, because, you know, one of the things that I read in the article is that it said, you know, they're not sure which African American has had a slave that has suffered, and it's hard to tell which person's bloodline had an ancestor suffer in order for them to get reparations. But if you think about this, all slaves suffered. Now, some slaves were treated, a little bit more well than others. That is true. But it is very, very important that you classify slavery as a suffrage. So slavery, period, is a suffrage. So I just wanted you to know that. We need the reparations, and it will help so many people. The African Americans that certain citizens in the U.S. who consider the term for African Americans who are, poorer than most, any type of, phrase that you have to give for African Americans, if you feel like, they don't have as much, this reparation would be that push for the phrase that you have for them to not be continued. That phrase won't be continued because, some people are working over and over and over and over and over again and would never see $1 million at once if they continue to work for a business. If they don't get their own business, they will never be happy. Yes, they have an opportunity now, but they would be, most of them will be trying to, stress and to come up with the money to start the business, even though some businesses don't, take that much to start. But just know how much less of a help you will get from African Americans from the government. They will be begging a lot less, a whole lot less, once they get the reparations, because that reparation of $1 million will be definitely an investment for them. They can do what they need to do to start their business. And as you can see, everything for investing and on all these things has been coming out in the media. And that's another reason why I definitely feel that reparations are going to be here, and people will be getting them, because, they wouldn't be advertising about getting your own business and things like that, for starting your own business and investing in certain, in businesses or homes, real estate and things like that, if they didn't, want to prepare you for something else greater. And yes, they are preparing you for just being your own entrepreneur, because, the old 9-to-5 job, standing on your feet for hours working for someone else, is vanishing. And a newer way of working would be for yourself, because the future is going to be free and everyone's going to be working for themselves, So this reparations would be definitely necessary, because all slaves suffered. And if you're an African American, you are a descendant of an ancestor who was once a slave. And because African Americans are usually criticized and labeled lazy, or not wanting to work, or pretty much the same thing, or less fortunate, those labels, and which are not true. Some people may have those traits, but it's because they never really, have gotten that push. And that's what the reparations was for from the beginning, was to give the African Americans a push so that they can get back on track. But it was, forgotten and ignored for years and years and years and years. So you can't blame anyone else but if I'm pronouncing this right, the Episcopal Church and the government. So, that's going to help a lot by that. So the only way that we're going to have to get reparations is to get rid of the Episcopal Church. Now, the old ways of getting rid of them, the Episcopal Church, was, the old way of getting rid of them, like some of the Europeans did when they wanted to get rid of a certain amount of people. They got rid of them, okay? Pretty much. Now this is a newer way of getting rid of people, and all you have to do is take their positions away and destroy the business. The business is no longer going to be standing. Now, everyone who's working for the Episcopal Church, they have to be fired. They have to be fired because the world is moving in one direction for growth, and they're trying to prevent it, and that's aid for them. Because if you allowed Caucasian people to get reparations for them, and you ask African Americans to determine if they should get it or not, and they've been waiting years and years and years and years, how would they feel? They would feel, but they don't, because they've been getting it all along, because they were more privileged in certain areas. So, and yes, it's a mind thing, but let's just be honest, they were privileged in certain areas. And it wouldn't make sense to ask a white person, for their vote if African Americans should receive reparations or not. That's just ridiculous. And if you do, it is because that the whites are running the Episcopal Church, just like the Evangelical Church. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. But the Episcopal Church is the one that needs to leave. So in order for us to get our reparations is to get rid of the people who are affiliated with that church and get rid of the people who are in a government supporting that. Because that's the only way we're going to get our reparations. Because I don't see how, we still have people of color working in the government and no reparations yet. So maybe, they're working on it. We are going to get them. But definitely we have to follow that plan strategically, okay? And that means that we don't have to kill anyone. This is not the 1700s, okay? You're just going to have to literally get rid of the people in the position to even classify rules and regulate if things should happen or not, because those are the ones that are preventing us from getting it. So they no longer should have a job, and they no longer need to be working for that place. If they want to be a freelance writer or be a janitor or something, for the building, or do something else, work at another place, they can, but that place should no longer be standing. So everyone who works for the Episcopal Church, every single last one of them will have to leave. And then you're just going to have to take over the business, because that's how it's going to have to be. I mean, the Caucasians done it in the past, but they done it in a very violent and horrible way. But because it's a new era, we don't have to do it that way. We can just do it in the easy way and take their jobs away from them and either replace newer workers, because it's no longer going to be going under the same system, the same structure. We shouldn't have to answer to a church that is relying on the government. We should be relying, answer to a government, before church. But because it's church and state, and this is a new era, and people are starting to wake up now and realize, what was being lied to them and what wasn't, this is the perfect time and the perfect opportunity to get rid of anyone. We don't have to kill them, But this is the perfect time to get rid of the people who are, that's the easiest thing to do, is to get rid of the people who are preventing us from moving forward. That is so easy. That is so easy. You're like, oh, we're going to go to the government and we're going to go and to this church and we're going to have a conference and we're going to tell them we need our reparations. Why? Why not just get rid of all of them, replace the old people with new people, and say we are going to start, dispersing reparations on Thursday. Voila. Well, what happened? Oh, we got rid of the people who we had to answer to. Oh no, you got rid of the people we were supposed to answer to. What made them any more different than you? What made the person that you just remember this? We had to answer to them of why we should get what we were promised. When the government makes the money, now it was old paper form, now it's digital. That's the easiest thing you can do now. So whoever is in control of manually typing the numbers in the computer, if they cannot manually type it in the computer, get rid of them and replace them with someone who can manually type it in the computer. It's that simple. Now, we don't have to kill them, but they can no longer be in a position to manually type people's numbers in the computer. It's just the simplest thing that you can do. So if we want reparations, we have to get rid of the people, that is preventing it and replace it with newer people. That's the simplest structure ever. The simplest thing. And again, we can get rid of these people without killing them. They just won't have a job for that company. They will be working somewhere else. Say, I'm sorry, but this job is going to be given to someone else. We're going to have someone else take over. If they love their job that much that they cannot accept the fact that the system is changing, that they are willing to not give up their seat and the system around them is changing, they would have no choice but to leave and go to another system or to do something else. Because they're like, wait a minute. Oh, really? Because once they figure out that the system has changed and either they want us to have reparations or not, it wouldn't matter because the system's going to do without them anyway. What can they do? Other than leave or complain and storm off and be upset like Dr. Oz. I just don't see why it's such a hard thing to do. Some people are afraid because they feel like, oh, okay, the only way out of this is to take that person out. Yeah, but the newer way is just to remove that person from their job without killing them. See you guys.